Hey, this is Mike Lindsay from Vital MX. We're out here at Fox Raceway today for the 2025 Honda CRF250R Works Edition launch. Yes, I said Works Edition. This is the first ever CRF250R Works Edition Honda's done. We've had a couple years in the books of them doing a 450 model, and this is it for the 250. And I will say, look at that thing sitting behind me, man. That is a good looking dirt bike. A lot of OEMs have gone into doing 450 factory editions, basically. The 250 side's been very limited. The Austrian manufacturer has done some. They're pretty light, you know, a lot of bling on the motorcycle, sometimes a slip-on. Honda's the first of the Japanese OEMs to really jump into that market. And first thing I'll give them props for is a lot of focus on the performance, which when you're spending the bigger bucks, I think particularly with the 250, you want to see that more. Like the 450, some guys are really into the bling side of it. If you're buying a 250, man, it's usually somebody that's racing, maybe dad helping out his son racing. And if you are that guy that's kind of looking for the fancier 250, you naturally are gonna want more performance, and that's what they focused on. So let's list it off. Let's go through what is different. You have a slightly ported cylinder head on this bike, pretty common again with what Honda's been doing with their Works Editions. Basically, intake ports have been touched up on this over the standard cylinder head. It does have different mapping, which suits all the other changes we'll mention. So it has different ignition and fuel curves. It still has 3 map modes, a standard, mellow, and aggressive. It also has 3 modes of traction control still, plus launch control. It also has a full Yoshimura exhaust system. It is a titanium exhaust can into mid-pipe with a stainless header. This is a little different than the aftermarket Yosh that is now available for the bike. We just got that for our standard bike. It's a different head pipe length and a little bit different can as they had more time on this platform. This system had to be built early enough to get produced for production, so this is based off their old spec. It has a longer head pipe and again, a little bit different baffles in the can. The new off-the-shelf Yosh system has a little bit shorter head pipe and a few changes to the can and baffle. Other than that, we have a twin air filter on this bike. We have coated suspension, and the suspension is just not all show. You have coated upper and lower tubes on the fork. There is also a fork setting change, a little bit difference with the valve and the spec in it. It ends up being a little bit stiffer. The shock has an 18mm coated shaft instead of a standard 16mm shaft, and the setting again has been tweaked because that 18mm shaft has a larger charge as it goes through the stroke. It is displacing, you know, the oil at a different rate, so the gas pressure and the setting are slightly tweaked for that. Other than that, you do have a little bit of bling on this bike. You do have a coated stock style triple clamp. You have the kind of HRC inspired graphics kit, the seat cover, full gold DID chain. We have DID LTX rims, so a little bit beefier rim on the bike. A little bit different Renthal grip. And then the big addition that's very unique to this bike is a hydraulic clutch. You cannot add this style hydraulic clutch to the production CRF250R because the ignition case is different. They've actually built a completely different ignition case for the Works Edition to accept the hydraulic slave cylinder. So that's also a big piece that you're getting for this. So this bike is $10,599. It retails for $2,300 more than the standard bike. And here's the simple question. Is it worth the extra money? I'm always a little on the fence with factory editions, especially because the first thing through my mind is I get parts for free, I get a deal on parts, I'm building a bike, I'm like, is this extra money worth what comes on the motorcycle? With some of the bikes that are very bling based, where you're talking about wheels and clamps and a clutch cover, I have a hard time justifying that cash. In this case though, I will say I think this is the most worth it 250 factory edition on the market, and basically one of the best values I've seen from a factory edition because again, performance on 250 is such a big deal. The power on track, the newest 250 is of course more playful from Honda. And if you want more of my thoughts on the complete bike, go check out our 2025 standard review. I'm just gonna talk about how this is actually different on track. The performance from the head, the pipe, the different ignition mapping, etc. It's very noticeable. This bike has so much more pickup off the bottom. It's so playful, so quick responding, and God, it sounds great. It sounds so much better than any stock 250 by a mile, especially Yamaha and the Cowie don't even sound that great to begin with. The Honda stock is pretty decent. The Austrians are decent. They're a little bit quiet, but this thing sounds like a slight mod bike out of the box. It has a great tone, super fun. Again, the biggest difference is that low to mid pickup. That's due to the pipe, the long header, the ignition mapping. It's very crisp, it's very fun. All three maps are standard and aggressive. Aggressive has so much pickup. And then the hydro clutch has such a smooth and soft character to it. I'm not a big clutch guy. I'm not dragging this thing through corners, but when you want to just get that little bit of pickup, tapping your finger on it, that light feel of the hydro just to make it wake up a little bit quicker is really enjoyable. The bike screams and picks up so fast in second gear, and even third is so much more playful than the standard bike. Up top, it's not a drastic amount difference than the standard bike. Again, they've gotten the standard bike to pull through a lot better. This just seems to carry a little bit better on the over rev. It's mostly that low to mid. And I would argue, if you're sitting here as a vet guy looking for what's the best performing stock 250 out of the box, that low to mid, for that recovery character, that response, that is the motorcycle sitting behind me, albeit it does come with that premium price tag. Is this the best engine package out of the box of a 250 because of the add-ons? I'd have to argue and say it's probably the best rounded. It is. It's that much fun. The other changes on the bike that of course make a difference are the suspension changes. It's very minor but noticeable on track. It maintains its balance like the stock bike extremely well. It just has a little bit more hold up and a little bit more of a progressive feel front and rear. They did mention that they didn't think the rear change would maybe show up on a dyno because they were kind of offsetting the shaft change. It still feels more progressive. It still feels a little more speed sensitive under load. And then same with the fork. It's just, we rode Fox today unprepped, just some water on it. There was always already a lot of braking bumps on down faces and stuff. The hold up and the attitude of the bike was really good out of the box. Did I make any changes? Not really. If I were to play with it more, yeah, I would probably push the fork out another 2-3 millimeters. I think the bike turns almost too good out of the box for me, but that's probably a common comment. If you've heard my reviews before, I like a bike that has a little bit slower turning input. For my weight, the shock could be a little bit stiffer on the high speed, but again, the overall balance of the bike out of the box is really good. Another thing that stands out is the tires. The standard bike comes with Pirellis, and particularly with a 100 rear tire for weight reasons. This bike does come with Dunlop MX-33s front and rear, and it comes with a 110 rear. And that's something else that's impressive for the power. Again, that low end to mid pickup is so good on this bike because it has a wider tire that has more surface area and is loading the bike harder. Normally you would jump up that tire size and you would notice it more. This bike picks up better than the stock bike, even though it has a technically heavier tire on the rear that is grabbing more traction, which is good because if you were to ride this setup with the 100 tire off the stock bike, it would just pick up and spin way too quickly. So in closing, is this bike better than the stocker? Heck yes. Would I spend the extra $2,300 if it was my own money? I actually think I would in this case. Between the rims, the pipe, the hydro, a couple of those items, it is well worth the money, plus the look out of the box. I do think the added value is worth it on this Honda, especially if you're going out to buy the bike, you have the budget, I'd go for it. Could it win shootout against all the other standard bikes? We won't actually have it in shootout, that's not quite fair, but my initial impression today is yes, I think this is better out of the box than the other 250s in the class. Again, there is a nice premium added on top of that. It does have a premium over the standard bike, but the standard Honda 250 at around $8,200 is either it might be the cheapest 250 or close to. I think the Suzuki's a little less, but the Honda 250 is a little bit less than its competition to begin with. So yes, this is a bit more than its competition, Works Edition form, but some of those bikes land in the middle. If you have any more questions or anything you feel like I did not explain well enough on this bike or anything you're curious about with the add-ons, please throw it in the comments section below. I'll do my best to get to answering it. And as always, thanks for watching VitalMX. Make sure you subscribe and give us a like.